Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Foundation for Ecological Welfare, a not-for-profit foundation, I welcome all of you who have enthusiastically connected with us tonight for knowing about oceans, their biodiversity, their services, and numerous threats they have been facing. This online event has been organized to mark World Oceans Day 2023, which was observed all over the world just a few days ago, that is on 8th June 2023. Friends, according to the United Nations, the oceans cover over 70% of Earth's surface. About 96.5% of Earth's water is contained in the oceans. Though poets have said many things about their uselessness for quenching man's thirst due to their saline waters, of course. But oceans are important, certainly, for our survival and smooth living in numerous other ways. Leave aside the drinking water requirement. Uh, which are those utilities of our oceans? Number one is they are the vast treasure troves of biodiversity. Okay, the oceans are home to a vast array of marine species and ecosystems, and they support rich biodiversity and provide habitats and food to countless plants and animals. And they ultimately contribute to ecological balance of the our blue planet Earth. Uh, Oceans are very important for climate regulations. They play a crucial role in regulating the Earth's climate. They absorb and store vast amount of carbon dioxide, helping to mitigate climate change. Additionally, oceans influence the weather patterns, regulate temperature, and distribute heat around the globe. Oceans are economically very important for the human society. They provide food, they provide occupations, jobs, livelihoods for millions of people around the world through industries such as fishing, tourism, shipping, etc., etc. Oceans are often referred to as the lungs of the earth, and because they generate a significant portion of the world's oxygen, phytoplankton, which are tiny marine plants, produce oxygen through photosynthesis, and these oxygen producing organisms are vital for survival of marine life and overall health of the our blue planet. And oceans have very important recreational and cultural values. Oceans offer numerous recreation opportunities such as swimming, surfing, and boating. They also hold cultural and spiritual significance for many coastal communities around the world. Friends, why do we observe World Oceans Day every year? Well, there are numerous reasons. Celebrating World Ocean Day helps us to appreciate the beauty and wonder of these diverse ecosystems and the need to protect them. By celebrating World Oceans Day, we recognize the importance of oceans in regulating climate change. Celebrating World Oceans Day highlights the economic significance of oceans. Celebrating World Oceans Day also allows us to recognize and appreciate the cultural and recreational values of the oceans. World Oceans Day serves as platform to promote the conservation and sustainable use of oceans. It encourages individuals, communities, and organizations to take actions and make positive changes to protect marine ecosystem, reduce pollution, combat overfishing, and address other ocean-related challenges. Friends, World's Oceans Day celebration revolves around separate central themes which vary from year to year. This year theme is Planet Ocean, Tides Are Changing. The theme of this year's World Oceans Day emphasizes various changes that are occurring in our oceans due to man-induced factors like pollution, climate change, unsustainable ways of resource exploitation, etc. And the theme also emphasizes the necessity of a global effort to reverse the trends of human society that threaten oceans' overall health and protect them. To make meaningful contribution to celebration of the World Oceans Day 2023, the Foundation for Ecological Welfare has chosen to commemorate this day by organizing an engaging online event featuring a talk accompanied by a PowerPoint presentation on the topic related to oceans. Our expert today is a senior researcher working since more than 1.5 decades on oceans and coastal wetlands, as also other wetlands and wildlife. She is Dr. Devanshi Joshi. Before I invite Dr. Devanshi Joshi for her interesting presentation, I would first like to give a brief introduction to Dr. Devanshi, introduction of Dr. Devanshi Joshi. Dr. Devanshi Joshi has been serving in the field of marine biology since last 15 years. She also works on coastal wetlands. She has been working in more than 13 research projects pertaining to coral reefs, marine biodiversity, and other wildlife. She vigorously worked on the coral reefs situated at various islands of the Marine National Park and Sanctuary in Gulf of Kutch, Gujarat, during her PhD on coral reefs and climate change. For one of her research projects, she was awarded Best Presentation Award by Zoological Survey of India and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change jointly. So far, she has published 20 research papers, as well as she has also published 12 reports and books. She is a life member of Association of Zoology. In order to create environmental awareness, she has given a number of radio talk and um, interviews on Doordarshan, Gujarat state. Apart from this, she is very much interested in bird watching, seed collection, nature education, etc. So now, without wasting much of your time, I would like to invite Dr. Devanshi Joshi for giving her presentation. Welcome, Dr. Devanshi.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting and essential element of nature. Yes, our shared oceans, especially their services and threats prevailing on them. So let us begin. Oceans. When we say oceans, we feel like the vastness, the salinity, dynamic environment, waves, currents, tides, all these things, even sometimes the gracefully leaping dolphins, all have fascinated mankind. When we say oceans, the sunset and sunrise on the ocean shore are also, some of the outstanding things. How? However, the curiosity and exploration of man remained limited up to the shores until the seamanship and the development of navigational technology took place. And it is often the blend of beauty, necessity, mystery, and variety of life in the sea that attracts us to excogitate marinely more and more. So this is how the science of oceanography evolved parallel to the science of navigation technologies, as well as other things. I mean, physics and mechanics and all, etc., etc. Forget a man contributed exceptionally in the field of oceanography. Yes, Matthew Murray. He is undoubtedly revered for his exceptional contribution in this field. And actually, he worked upon the currents. He tried to understand the tides and currents and all the aspects of oceans which are related to navigation. So his study made the navigation easier than the previous one. And that is why he is also sometimes nicknamed as the pathfinder of oceans. 8 June, World Ocean Day. Uh, yes, in 1992, during the Earth Summit, it was realized that the ocean sector lacked a strong voice compared to the other sectors. So it was decided that let us celebrate 8 June as the World Ocean Day. It is mainly celebrated or observed rather with the objective to move the ocean from sidelines to the center of the intergovernmental as well as NGO discussions and policy generations. Every year, this day is celebrated with a particular theme as per the demand of time and the environmental issues prevailing for pertaining to oceans. So this year, it was observed with the theme Planet Ocean, the tides are changing. Yes, it was this theme was particularly for the joining forces with decision makers, which force they wanted to join. So, the decision making, the involvement of indigenous leaders, scientists, even private sector executives, representatives from civil societies, even celebrities, and most important, youth activists, all were required and all were also suggested to keep ocean first in all their decisions and activities. Now, services. The most important segment of our discussion is this. If we classify the major services being provided by oceans, then they are some of them are provisioning services wherein oceans directly provide goods in one or the other form. Others are regulating services, climate regulation, biological control, waste absorption. Of course, we're going to discuss each of them in detail. And the last one is the group of services which are known as which we understand as the cultural services, which includes educational, aesthetic, existence, and of course, stewardship. Most important, oceans provide 50% oxygen to Earth's atmosphere. So every second breath or the inhalation I take is thankful to oceans, right? Okay, whenever we are discussing the services of ocean, how can we forget this? OHC, yes. Ocean heat content. It is nothing but the total amount of heat absorbed by the oceans and stored in it. How is it measured? It is understood as the water temperature at a particular time and at a particular location. As a whole, oceans absorb 90% of the heat from solar energy. So, see, they are working as the natural cooler on Earth and making our Earth a habitable place. In addition to this, they also absorb 30% of atmospheric CO2. Now, we know that carbon dioxide is an important greenhouse gas. So, by absorbing CO2, again, oceans are indirectly keeping the atmosphere, the temperature of Earth, bit lower. So, yeah, again, they are working as a cooler of the atmospheric of the Earth atmosphere. Now, one more important provision from ocean is the source of protein. Yes, more than 1 billion people around the world depend on ocean for their protein requirement. If we see the contribution of oceans in our economy, that is also very important because it is estimated that 40 million people are employed by oceans and will be employed due by one or the another ocean-based activity by 2030. Yes. One more important service of ocean is it is home to most Earth's biodiversity, that is 250,000 species are inhabiting in our oceans, and scientists say that yet more are to be discovered. So they have estimated about 7 lakh species as are supposed to be there inhabiting in ocean. Can you imagine? These are the just diversity of species. Density is again a separate subject. Yes. Uh, if we see the contribution, total monetary contribution of ocean in our economy, it is also known as blue economy, and it is referred to as the wide range of activities related to the exploitation of maritime resources. If we see the ocean based goods and services, then it is estimated that all they collectively contribute $2.5 trillion to our economy. This includes many type of services from the coastal area of the ocean, as well as the exclusive economic zone, as well as the deep sea region. All they collectively contribute to our economy. Yes. Whenever we talk of the ecological services of ocean, two ecosystems very immediately comes in mind, that is coral reef and mangrove. Yes. Corals actually basically are the animals, tiny animals, which are capable of forming rock from seawater. By absorbing salts from seawater, they are able to form calcium carbonate platform. But this is not a flat platform. It is having number of crevices and nooks and, you know, a very uneven surface, which is very suitable for number of invertebrates and fishes to inhabit, because they are getting a safe retreat in this type of substratum or in the ocean. As well as it is a very good place for a nursery. I mean, it protects the eggs as well as juveniles of many fishes, as well as slugs, crabs, octopus, a number of echinoderms like sea stars, feather star, and your brittle star, etc. So, a number of worms also found around the coral reef ecosystem. So, yes, coral reefs are like a rainforest of oceans. And the next important ecosystem, marine ecosystem, if we see, then it's mangrove. Mangroves, mangrove actually refers to a group of trees which are capable of growing in the mud. Actually, they grow in the verge of land as well as sea, but they are very much able to cope up with the salt water through various adaptations and all. Even their roots come out of water and can breathe. But not only these trees are special, but they also have capacity to shelter number of other invertebrates and vertebrates around it. So when you walk through, when you walk through the mangrove forest, you can see number of crabs, hundreds of crabs walking with you, hundreds of crab holes in the surface of the mud of mangrove. So yeah, it is then to eat these crabs, a number of other organisms comes here and there, so it forms a food chain. Okay. In spite of being such a fascinating ecosystem, in spite of having a number of resources, our oceans are in threat. Why are they? Which are the threats, and why are they under these threats? Because all the things we live here and there finally ends up in ocean. How? First of all, if we see the chemical pollution, the industrial as well as land-based other fluid. As I mentioned earlier, that oceans perform several regulating services and ecological services too as a part of it. So let us understand these services by an interesting example of eastern oysters found at Chesapeake Bay of Maryland. Actually, these oysters are known as the keystone species of in this area particularly, because they form a reef-like structure. They are so abundant that they have formed a continuous reef-like structure. And in addition to that these species work as an engineer. They function as an engineers to build additional habitat for the other species to live in and around the reef. So, yeah, these are the very important species of the Chesapeake Bay. Then gradually, what happened? And what is the specialty of the species? These oysters are able to, they are filter feeders, so they are able to filter about 190 to 200 liters of water per day. Yes, an adult filter can an adult oyster can filter this much water every day. And collectively, all this, the complete population found here can filter about 19 trillion gallon water in a week. So the whole population took about a week to filter entire Chesapeake Bay in a week. And now what happened? Gradually, due to over harvesting, as I said, that the species are found in abundance in this area. So people kept harvesting, and then over harvesting. So the adults were declining in number. On the other hand, what started happening on the coast of Chesapeake Bay, a number of watershed and other industrial pollution started increasing. So as a result of this pollution, the bottom of the Chesapeake Bay started getting sedimentation. Now, due to the sedimentation, spat or larvae of this oyster couldn't get proper place to settle upon. So as a result of this, again, even the larvae were not able to survive. On the other hand, you are harvesting and over harvesting adults. So as a result, the population declined drastically. And in addition to these two adverse factors, the disease and several pathogens also attack this oyster population in the area. And unfortunately, only 1 to 2% of its historic population remained there. It was indeed a drastic decline in the population. One more interesting thing I would like to discuss over here is that the role this particular oyster performed, that due to filtration of water by this oyster, water column used to remain clear or the comparatively pure, wherein light can penetrate easily. Now, due to decline in this oyster population, the water was not comparatively, it was not as quality was not as good as previous years. So in this turbid water, one more species was getting adversely affected, and that was seagrass growing in the bottom of this Chesapeake Bay. Now, due to this hampered growth or the struggling condition of the seagrass, two more species started affecting adversely. That was the juvenile fish and crabs, because these two species used to get safe retreat in the seagrass beds, and they could very well escape themselves from predators. Now, as the grass itself was degrading, the juvenile fish and crabs were not getting proper place to hide, and they were becoming the victim of predators again and again. On the other hand, from the same seagrass bed, these two crabs and fish were also getting their food, tiny food. So due to degraded condition, they were neither able to get proper food. On the other hand, they were becoming victim of the predators. So as a result of decline in oyster condition, oysters population, the seagrass beds were also hampered, and as a result of this, two more species, the juvenile fish and the crabs, were also declining. So, as a whole, the system collapsed in the absence of these oysters. So, understanding this importance of the uh, uh, role performed by the oyster and the oyster reef in the ecology of Chesapeake Bay, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation took an initiative. What did they do? They started restoring the reef, and that is also an interesting story of restoration. What they did, they started collecting empty oyster shells from hotels and homes and all, and started making a good suitable substrate for the larvae and other invertebrates in the area nearby the reef. So gradually, along with it, there were many other efforts too, and as a result of this restoration process, it also started recovering. And what happened? Let us understand. Restored reefs in Harris Creek, it is also there in the Maryland Eastern Shore, can now filter entire volume of the creek in less than 10 days. One more thing, I mean, if we see the monetary benefit of the filtration, then each year the reef are estimated to remove an amount of nitrogen that is equivalent to 20,000 bags of fertilizer. This is the service valued at more than $1.7 million. And this is what oysters are doing for us quite freely. So let us understand the value of these silent servants, silent ecological servant. Isn't it an interesting aspect of ocean services provided to us? In spite of in spite of providing multiple resources, goods, and services, oceans are facing serious threats. Yes, they are under multiple threats. Which are the major threats? It might be chemical pollution, from industries or any other land-based sources of pollution. It might also be oil spilling. It might be plastic pollution or a natural threat that is climate change. What happens as a result of such pollutions? So it has been found out that 90% of the big fish population has been depleted. That is a very important deletion from food chain. So this may affect the higher level of trophic as well as the lower trophic level, that is the prey of this big fishes too. Another very important loss is the 50% of coral reef destroyed. Yes, coral reef are, when I say coral reefs have destroyed, it is not touching to a single species, but it affects a number of invertebrates, vertebrates, and even plants. So, effect to the coral reef is going to affect multiple species in the ocean. Let us understand these threats one by one. It's a consequences. It's a consequence of environmental extremity. But in order to understand coral bleaching properly, we shall have to understand coral biology briefly. Excuse me. Actually, corals show a symbiotic relationship with a unicellular algae. This unicellular alga, I mean, multiple cells of this alga resides in the cells of corals. And then because of this pigments of this alga, corals appear colorful. So corals basically do not have any color. Whatever they have, they acquire from alga itself. But whenever any environmental extremity comes in picture, that is, it might be extremity of temperature or any other chemical, corals cannot sustain this algae for longer time. So they have to expel out these algal cells from their own body. As a result, corals become transparent or translucent. So when the skin of coral becomes transparent or translucent, the white calcium carbonate skeleton beneath the skin appears through. That is why the overall appearance looks like white coral, and that is why the phenomenon is known as coral bleaching. But it is more dangerous when it is in larger scale, which is known as mass coral bleaching. During these conditions, corals are, very weak. Say, for example, when you get fever or typhoid, so you are surviving, you are alive, but you are in very weak condition. In this condition, if you get attack of any other more pathogen, you will you may lead yourself to death. Same way, during the bleached conditions, corals are very sensitive, susceptible compared to the normal condition. Moreover, during these conditions, other invertebrates or fishes do not come around corals because then they will easily be captured by their predators. So, at the time of mass coral bleaching, the reef also shows scarcity of other invertebrates and vertebrates. So, as a whole, it's a big threat to the ocean and oceanic ecosystems, marine ecosystems rather. Okay, one very dangerous thing we all are actually witnessing this, that is plastic pollution. It is really unbelievable that every year 8 billion ton plastic is thrown or is being carried out in the oceans. It is predicted that if this amount of plastic keeps continue to go in ocean, the plastic will exceed the fish number in ocean. Yes. And what happens when the marine organisms see these plastic fragments? As you can see in this picture, the fish is trying to eat. Many turtles also try to eat this plastic fragments because they feel that it is my food. They mistake it with jellyfish. So yes, and then these plastic fragments eaten up become stuck in the intestine, and the animals actually die or may get weakened. I mean, it is ultimately going to be die after some time. Now, when this plastic pollution comes continuously and end up in the ocean, what happens? We know that the life cycle of plastic is very, very long, right? So it is not going to degrade that much easily. And it has been said that the first plastic we prepared has not degraded yet till date. So wherever the gyres are existing in oceans, the plastic pollution, all the trashes will keep moving in its center. So such a very huge garbage patch is is recorded presently in the Pacific Ocean, which is known as Great Pacific Garbage Patch, generally known as GPGP. Can you imagine how large this garbage patch is, or the area of garbage patch? It is 3 times the country France. And not only it is not only spread over the surface, it is also having a very danger third dimension. Yes, somewhere it is 5 meter deep, or at some point it is also 2000 meter deep. See the amount of trash in ocean. This is I'm talking about only single GPGP, that is Great Pacific Garbage Patch. 2 or 3 more such large garbage patch are existing in ocean. And due to this, number of zones in ocean have been declared as dead zone because they are no more sustaining any biodiversity which were earlier having the animals and plants over there. So yeah, it's a danger thing. It was a sperm whale stranded on the coast of Philippines. What should I say? It's a self-speaking picture. More than 100 pieces of plastic were found from this whale. This happens because blue whales and the sperm whales are having typical food pattern or typical food habit. They are known as baleen whale. What do? They open their mouth. Some of the whale can even open up to 90-degree. They take a big bulge of water inside their mouth and close the mouth. Then after allow the water to get out of their mouth from the baleens, the comb-like structure instead of teeth. So once the water has released from their mouth, only trash remains, or these very small phytoplanktons and zooplanktons remains inside its mouth, which is embedded in the baleen-like structure. But these whales do not know that along with phytoplanktons or zooplanktons or small krill and all, it has also captured or locked plastic trashes and plastic fragments and even microplastic inside their mouth. It keeps accumulating and accumulating and accumulating in their body, which ultimately becomes the reason of their death. So this is where our role comes. This is where I feel that I must have awareness at this point of time that the bottle or any fragment of plastic inside the whale's body must not be thrown by me. At least I should be aware that none of this single plastic gets drifted unknowingly or thoughtlessly in environment by me. Plastic, microplastic, or various trashes of plastic affect marine fauna, then we can see that 90% or more than 90% of the seabirds are found to have plastic pieces in their stomach. Yes, almost 100% of the turtles are known to have plastic fragments or microplastic in their body, or even sometimes entangled plastic pieces around their body. 59% of whales showed the occurrence of plastic fragments in their body. 36% of the seals were found to have plastic evidence in their body. And very sad, about 3 lakh dolphins die each year as a result of becoming entangled in the plastic net, fishing net actually. So yes, it's a very sad scenario, and as a whole 100 million marine animals die as a result of plastic waste. This reminds me an experience of plastic pollution when I visited the coastal area. I found about 10 centimeter big crab, and it was badly entangled in the fishing net. Very complex entanglement was there. We were trying to break it out. We're trying to solve it out, but the crab was alive, so we were not able to make it out how to release the crab from the uh, plastic or fishing net. Ultimately we tried to do this, and we were successful to release the crab, but during this process or exercise I lost my cell phone in coastal water, and it went forever. However, we were successful in releasing the crab. So this was a single animal which came across our record or our observation, but there are a number of animals in the deep sea, in the nectonic area, where we are not going to survey, or we cannot vigorously go and survey and release them. So a thoughtful use of plastic and thoughtful channelizing of the plastic becomes a very essential step. in order to conserve this biodiversity. How this happens? Is it the duty of only coastal population to prevent the pollution, or be it plastic pollution or any other pollution? No. What research says that 80% of the plastic trash come from land source via rivers. Yes, rivers carry more than 80% of the trashes to the ocean. So even non-coastal population is more responsible for the plastic pollution in ocean. All the citizens residing on the banks of river are equally responsible for this pollution. So we hope that we can manage this mismanaged plastic waste and any other, even the uh, electronic gadgets and all these things must be very well managed even after their lifespan completes. We are supposed to find out proper places, we are supposed to find out recycling and upcycling units, and it is very much there. People are active and people are not active, then too it is our that is why we all have to come together, that an engineer can solve certain type of problem, a plastic engineer will be doing something else, and collectively we will be able to channelize these polluting materials, separate, and we may stop them reaching to the oceans by this process. So let us join hand to safeguard our oceans. Let us join hand to safeguard the fascinating world of marine biodiversity. Okay. As I said, the solution, the beach cleaning can of course help, but it cannot solve the problem permanently because it is not touching the root cause. As I said, reducing plastic use is the first solution. If you can't reduce, we should try to reuse, and if it is single use plastic, it is a must that we send it to the recycling unit, and uh, try to make some or the other thing from the single use plastic, but not at all allowing them to float in the environment. Thank you. Let us hope that our coexistence with ocean and the marine biodiversity lasts long. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Devanshi. It was a very knowledge packed and very interesting presentation by you. And I'm pretty sure that our viewers must have gained a lot of knowledge about our valuable oceans and which threats they have been facing. So I appeal to all the viewers that we have to do something positive for conserving our oceans. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Devanshi Joshi, for your wonderful presentation. Goodbye, all, everybody.